Hey everybody out in YouTube land, my name's Mike and I love guitars. In today's video, we're going to take a look at two different 5150 style amps. We're going to be doing a shootout with my 50 watt EVH 5153 against my friend's Bugera 6260. Let's do this. A few years ago, I was making my normal pawn shop rounds and I came across a Bugera 6260 at a really reasonable price. At the time, I didn't have any genuine 5150 amps, so I decided to go ahead and pick it up. It was a fun amp and I did use it on occasion until about a year later when I found my EVH 5153 at a different pawn shop. After I got the EVH, I sold the Bugera to my buddy Cliff and now he's loaned it back to me to do this video. I've never owned an original PV 5150, so I can't confirm this, but I've read that the Bugera 6260 circuit is basically a direct copy of the original PV circuit. If that's true, then this should give us a pretty good idea how the OG 5150 sounds in comparison to the current 5153. Anyone who's seen any of my videos will know that I'm really not much of a clean channel guy, so we're just going to skip straight to the fun part. The orange channel of the 6260 and the blue channel of the 5153. For the audio demos in this video, I'll be using my number one 1979 Les Paul Standard running into both amps and from there into my 2-notes Torpedo Captor. For an overdrive, I decided to use the Boss SD1 Super Overdrive. I know that a tube screamer is a little more traditional for a 5150, but I like the Boss and I just felt like mixing things up a bit. I didn't try and match the EQ settings exactly between the two amps. Instead, I just decided to dial in a tone I liked on each and see how they compared to each other. The 6260 without an overdrive is both a little fizzy in the high end and a little flubby in the low end. Considering how the original 5150 sounds, that really shouldn't surprise anyone, but it's worth pointing out. An overdrive in front of this amp really helps to clean up the loose low end and gives a much smoother tone overall. Now we're getting close to the tone these amps are so famous for. The 5153 has a noticeably less raw sound than the 6260 does. For me, it doesn't need an overdrive the same way that the 6260 does, but just because it doesn't need an overdrive doesn't mean we shouldn't stick one in front of it and have some fun. The overdrive in front of the 5153 doesn't sound as dramatic as it does in front of the 6260, but it does really help this amp to shine. It tightens up the low end and gives the tone a more mid-range punch that should help it cut through a mix better. When running the two amps back to back, the 5153 just comes across as the more refined amp. Of course, since the 5153 is the third iteration and second major revision of the 5150 and therefore the 6260, that's kind of an obvious outcome that we really should expect. Now, I am not saying that the 5153 sounds better than the 6260 at all. The original 5150 sound is absolutely legendary for a reason, but the 5153 is a bit less rough around the edges. I also didn't say that the 5153 isn't a better amp overall. A strong argument could be made that in terms of build quality, the 5153 absolutely smokes the 6260. But I think that's to be expected considering their different price points. EVH is a name that's synonymous with tone chasing, while Bugera is a name that's synonymous with cheap guitar gear. But there's not a shot at Bugera either. The 6260 legitimately sounds good, and different people have different budgets. Ignore elitists and gatekeepers. Original PV block letters are not getting any cheaper with time, so buy what you can afford as long as it inspires you to create music. So I guess all of that was just to say that these two amps do sound similar, but they don't sound exactly alike. Sounding different doesn't mean that one sounds better or worse than the other. It just means they sound different. I don't need the 5153 to sound exactly like the 5150/6260 because we already have the 5150/6260 for that sound. If I need a heavy yet relatively polished tone, I'm grabbing the 5153. If I need something a little more brutal, then I'll grab the 5150/6260. And just like that, we've come to the end of another video. If you've managed to hang in for this long, I really appreciate it. And if you have experience with either one of these amps, let me know in the comments below and we'll talk about it. I've also started a Discord for the channel, so if you're interested in joining or in following me on Twitter, please check for those links below. Oh man. Here we go. I am getting too old for this.